Well, here's some Holy Week afterthoughts from Palm Sunday, and this week's a little bit different because the bulk of our service was really both the Palm procession involving all the children, the great music that went along with that, and then a special dramatic presentation. So it was only right near the end that I looked at a couple of stories from Mark that I covered very briefly. So I have some great afterthoughts, things that really didn't make the final cut on Sunday. Both of these stories had to do with women who saw something that other people apparently didn't see, and Jesus commended them for that. The first one in chapter 12 is a little more familiar story where Jesus was watching the crowd bringing in their offerings to the temple, and a lot of the people were given a whole bunch of money. I'm sure they made a lot of noise as they dropped all their wealthy coins into that kettle there. But then Jesus notes that a poor widow approached and who put in 2 tiny copper coins, like 2 pennies for us, worth next to nothing. As far as we know, he said nothing to her, nothing that we can tell, but he did call his disciples together and called her out and said, "Look what she's doing over there." And he noted that the poor widow had given a greater gift than all of the wealthy donors who had preceded her. And Jesus' words were this: all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but out of her poverty she has put in everything she had, all she had to live on. This is an example of what we sometimes call Jesus' unusual math. He doesn't value things quite in the same way as we do. And then the other story that's really amazing is really the last story before the Last Supper. That's really significant in the Gospel of John. It's the very beginning of chapter 14. Let me read those verses to you. Mark 14, 1 through 9. The Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread were only 2 days away. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were plotting to arrest Jesus secretly. They wanted to kill him, but not during the feast, they said. The people may stir up trouble. Jesus was in Bethany. That's a short distance from Jerusalem. He was at the table in the home of Simon, who had a skin disease. A woman came with a special sealed jar. It contained very expensive perfume made out of pure nard. She broke the jar open and poured the perfume on Jesus' head. Some of the people there became angry. They said to one another, "Why waste this perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's pay. The money could have been given to poor people." So they found fault with the woman. "Leave her alone," Jesus said. "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. You will always have poor people with you. You can help them anytime you want to, but you will not always have me. She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body to prepare me to be buried. What I'm about to tell you is true. What she has done will be told anywhere the good news is preached all over the world. It will be told in memory of her." 2 very different gifts, both of which Jesus commended as being amazing gifts. This last one was rather extravagant, wasn't it? When I think of extravagant gifts, let me tell you what I think of. The Neiman Marcus Christmas catalog. Let me confess, I've never ordered anything out of the Neiman Marcus Christmas catalog, but I do sometimes enjoy looking through it just to laugh. The one from last Christmas had sunglasses for $865. You could buy a backpack for $2,500. By the way, these are not the extra extravagant gifts like the $100,000 hot air balloon ride. How about this for the favorite kid in your life? A trunk, a beautiful trunk full of a variety of children's costumes, either a boy version or a girl version. How much? $5,000. Too late, that's last Christmas. But think about it for a minute. This jar of perfume, Jesus said it was over a year's pay. Now, in our day and time, if you think up a year's pay at 52 weeks out of the year, full-time, minimum, even at minimum wage, that's $15,000. If we're honest, we understand the outrage. If somebody came up and poured out a $15,000 jar of perfume on anyone, we would be outraged. And it also makes me think about the fact that someone once said, "No good deed goes uncriticized." Isn't that the truth? But notice Jesus' words. It's a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful thing that she has done. One of the commentators notes that this is a different word than the good thing. It's the lovely thing or the beautiful thing. And then Jesus says, "She has anointed me." Now that's no surprise. We remember Old Testament stories in which a man or a boy was anointed. Oil was poured on his head, like Samuel pouring oil on young David. That was anointing him, expressing God's call for him as king. But notice what Jesus says, she has anointed me for my burial. That meant she saw something that no one else could see. Both the woman with the 2 coins and then the woman with the jar of expensive perfume also remind me of blind Bartimaeus. We talked about him a few weeks ago, how he could see what others were missing. And these 2 women are the same way. They could see in Jesus what others could not. Notice the very last thing Jesus said about this woman who anointed him with the perfume. What she has done will be told anywhere the good news is preached all over the world. It will be told in memory of her. Now, we don't have this woman's name, but think about this. We are still telling her story. Almost 2,000 years later. I wonder how many of us will have anybody talking about us 2,000 years after we walk this earth. That was an amazing gift, and it fulfilled what Jesus said. Notice the other thing he said. This will happen all over the world. Even as he was preparing for his journey to the cross, even as he was preparing for this Last Supper, Jesus was thinking about this moment when there would be good news preached all over the world. He could see what no one else could see at that moment. Well, it was an amazing Palm Sunday with grand music, a wonderful crowd, a wonderful spirit. What a beautiful Holy Week we are experiencing. And I pray that God will lead you to a wonderful Easter, and that your heart will be open to the message of hope that transformed everything. Get ready. Easter's coming.